So today we're learning about simple and compound interest earnings. So if someone borrows money, so say you're buying a car or a house, what factors influence how much is paid back? So first of all, the amount of money that you borrow is the principal, and that's going to obviously determine how much money you owe. Also the time, how long it was borrowed. So if you borrow it for a shorter amount of time, you will owe less than if you borrow it longer, based on the rate. So the rate is what interest was charged, and that's at an annual rate. One thing that's important to remember is that time is always going to be in years. So if you're talking about months, that needs to be turned into years. So amount to pay back is principal plus your interest. And to find the interest, which is what we're focused on, you're going to take the principal times the rate times the time. So I equals P times R times T. So let's do an example together. Each year on the same day, Susan deposits $200 into a savings account that earns simple interest at a rate of 5%. If she makes no withdrawals, so she's not taking any money out, how much total interest has Susan's savings account earned after 5 years? So again, the formula that we are using is I equals principal times rate times time. So the principal from the problem is $200. She deposits $200. Her rate is going to be 5%, rate of 5%. That was her $200. And then we're finding out how much she earned after 5 years. So time is going to be 5. So to find simple interest, we're going to take our amount, so $200. We're going to multiply it times 5%. 5% is what as a decimal? So to find a decimal from a percent, you're going to take your decimal point, which is here, right? It's just after the 5. We're going to move it to the left 2 places. So it's 0.05. And then we have to multiply it times the year. So times 5. So let's go ahead and do our math. So we have 200 times 0.05. 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 0, 0. 2 times 5 is 10. And then we have 1, 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So 1, 2. So it's going to be 10. So now we have 10 times 5. So 10 times 5 is 50. So $50. So it means she deposits $200. After 5 years at a rate of 5%, she will earn $50 on that original $200 investment. Okay, let's look at the next one. So Marta deposits $15,000 into an account with 7% interest. Sorry, let me change my color. Okay, that will earn simple interest. How much will Marta's account balance, be after 15 years? So again, interest is principal times rate times time. So principal, she deposits $15,000. So 15,000 at a rate of 7%. What is her balance after 15 years? So principal, 15,000 times rate in decimal form. So if it's 7%, move my decimal to the left. So it's 0.07. 1, 2 would make it 7% times 15 years. I'm going to move over here and do my math. So 15,000 times 0.07. 7 times 0, 0, 2, 3 times. 7 times 5 is 35. 3 up top. 1 times 7 is 7. Plus 3 is 10. I have 1, 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So now I have 1,050 times 15. Okay, so I had to go back twice, so video is probably pretty crazy. So 1050 times 15 is what we're working on. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25, bring down my 2, 1 times 5 is 5. Second number, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 1 is 1. Add it all up, 0, 5, 7, 5, 1. So it's 15,750. But it's asking our account balance. This is what? This is our interest. So to find the balance, we're going to take our original $15,000 and we're going to add the interest that we've earned. So $15,750 at a rate of 7% after 15 years. That's a really good investment. So 0, 5, 7, 0, carry 30,000. So at the end of 15 years with a 7% interest, 15,000 can be turned into $30,750. All right, let's move to the next one. So use the formula. A $1,200 bond earns 3% simple interest. Of course, I hit it and went too far. Okay, per year on its purchase price, what is the amount of interest earned after 15 months? All right, so let's take a look. $1,200 bond is our what? Our principal. Our rate is 3%. And then per year, what is the amount after 15 months? So 15 months, how many months in a year? 12 months in a year. So that's 1 year. 15 minus 12 is 3. And 3 months. Well, 3 is out of a total of 12 months. So it should be 1 and 3 out of 12, which can be simplified to 1, divide both by 3, and 1/4. So 1.25. Again, our formula is interest equals principal times rate times time. So principal, 1,200, times rate. 3% is a decimal. We should know by now we're moving our decimal place twice. So 0.03 times time of 1.25. Now I have to do is multiply. So 1,200 times 0.03. I have 2 zeros. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 numbers to the right of the decimal place. I have $36 here. So now 36 times 1.25. So 1.25. I'm going to put it on the top because it's more numbers. 6 times 5 is 30. 2 times 6 is 12. 13, 14, 15. 1 times 6 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. That is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. 1 times 3 is 3. Add it up. 0, 10, 14, 15, 3, 4. 1, 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So we have $45 in interest. So the key to this one was noticing that this was in months, not years, and that we had to change it into decimal form by putting the number of extra months over 12 and simplifying it. All right? So we are going to go on to the next example. I'm just going to make sure this stays going. All right, so you put $1,500 in a simple interest savings account. 2 years later, the total account balance is $1,665. What is the interest rate? So we're going backwards. We're looking for this rate. So what do we know? We know that the interest rate is equal to principal times rate times time. So what do we know? We know our principal was $1,500, and we know that our interest is what? Well, the balance is $1,665, so the interest is what was added to it from the $1,500. So I'm going to do $1,665 minus $1,500. 5 minus 0 is 5, 6 minus 0 is 6, 6 minus 5 is 1, and 0. So the principal is the $1,500, we said. Our interest was $165. Our time, says is 2 years. So my interest, 165, equals principal, 1,500, times my rate, times 2. All right, so first I'm going to distribute my 2 to the 1,500. So 165 equals 1,500 times 2. So 15 times 2 is 30. So 3,000 times the rate. So to get R by itself, I have to divide by 3,000. Oops, there we go. Those cancel. So now I have 165 divided by 3,000. So I want you guys to try it on your paper and see what you get. Okay, so you can go ahead and check it. So 165, we had to add zeros. 3,000 will go into 16,000. So I have to put a 0 here because it doesn't go into 1,650. So I had to put my 0, and then 3 goes into 16 about, let's see, 3 times 7 is 21, that's too high. 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 6 is 18. So I'm going to do 3,000 times 5 is 15,000. So 0, 0, 5 minus 0 is 5, 6 minus 5 is 1. So now, bring down a 0, I have 15,000. So 5, 5. So we got a rate of 0.055. To turn that into a percent, we move our decimal to the right 1, 2 places. So it's 5.5%. I'm sure you all got that right. All right, one last one. Jillian's grandparents gave her $3,000 to save until she starts college. Her grandparents agreed to pay her an additional 6.5% simple interest on the $3,000 every year. If she will end up with $3,780 when she's ready to start college, how many years? So again, we're building upon our formula of interest equals principal times rate times time. And this is the element that we're looking for this time. So they gave her $3,000. Let's fill it in, 3,000. To save, her grandparents agreed to pay her an additional 6.5% right there. Can I go ahead and say, move my decimal, so it's 0.065. Every year, she ends up with $3,700. So what do I have to do with this? To find my interest, it was added to the principal. So I need to do 3,780 minus the principal of 3,000. So my interest is $780. So I have all these elements except my time. So I'm going to go ahead and fill them into my formula. So interest, 780. Equals principal 3,000 times the rate 0.065 times time. Okay, so you guys should press pause and go ahead and calculate it yourself. Okay, so now you can check your work. So we multiplied out here. We came to 780 equals 195. We got the 195 by doing 3,000 times 0.065. So we have 780 is 195 times t. To get time by itself, we divide both sides by 195. These cancel out. Once your division's done, you get 4. So 4 years, she accumulated 780 in interest. So she had a total of 3,780.